Why did Stella suddenly get attacked by Joey? Will she be able to escape from his clutches? Will Julian arrive in time to save her? Do you want to know how Stella's fate will turn? Subscribe to us and witness together. Chapter 20. Stella. I could not believe my own eyes. Julian just turned into a wolf. A freaking wolf, and I asked if he was a vampire. I was so stupid. That was why he looked offended. I would be too if I were one. Focus, Stella. Supernatural does exist. I studied the animal very carefully. He was large, huge even, and absolutely beautiful. The gray fur reflected glamorously under the moonlight. It was a breathtaking and alluring view. I pinched my arm just to make sure I was not imagining things. I tend to do that. Julian turned and looked at me with his entrancing honey eyes. He was worried. I was scared, yes. Maybe it was showing on my face, but I was not scared to the point of hating him like he said before. I was intrigued and confused. I had tears all over my face because I was overwhelmed by the events and the chaos. You may call me crazy, insane, or even demented, but that is what I felt the most at that moment. Adoration. As I was absorbing the fact that he was a real werewolf, I saw 3 others trying to bounce on Julian's back. My hands were moving on their own. My mind was not functioning properly. I opened the door and shouted for Julian to watch out. When he turned around, the 3 jumped on him and limited his movements, but not for long. He was too strong for them. He was invincible, but with a warm heart, if I must say. He did not kill anyone, even though he could have easily done that. Julian was a kind-hearted werewolf. At least that was what I saw. He was fighting them to protect me. He sacrificed his secret for me. I could not possibly hate him even if I wanted to. As time passed, he was the only one standing. I saw him change back to his human form, being naked for seconds, then he wore some clothes. I was not in the right state of mind to comment on his glorious body. When he entered the jeep, I looked at him and waited for him to speak until I felt darkness taking over my field of vision. I was out. I was being carried, and it was a foreign feeling, so I opened my eyes only to be greeted by a soft smile. "Hey," Julian said softly, and I melted. Then everything came back to me. He was a wolf. "Hey, is it finally time to talk to me about you now?" I asked. He nodded. "Yes, it is. I'll tell you everything as soon as we enter my house." He cleared, and I looked around to see a very large and new house. The garden was so wide that I could not see the main entrance until he got closer. "This is your house?" I asked, bewildered by the scene. He rich. "Yes, and I live alone. We will stay here for a while because it's dangerous for you to be in an obvious place like the pack house," he answered. "Pack house? I'll just wait for him to talk." He opened the door, but not with a key. He opened it with his fingerprint. The house was well protected and secured. The glass looked so sturdy, and the door was reinforced with what I assumed to be steel. As he stepped foot into the house, I tried to stand on my feet, but he refused to let me go. He tightened his grip on my body. "Julian, I can walk," I stated, and he rolled his eyes. "I know, but I want you in my arms," he stated back, and I had no reply to him. I just blushed. He walked to a big living room that was beautifully decorated, but the books on the long shelves were what grabbed my attention the most. Julian placed me on the couch and he sat next to me. He was too close, our knees were touching. This small touch can send sparks like fireworks through my whole body. "Okay, so I'll start by stating the now obvious. I'm a werewolf," he began, and I had so many questions. "I have a pack and it's called the Greymod Pack." "Like a flock." He chuckled. "It's like a big family that has a lot of werewolf members. My pack has about 700 members. They are all family." He glanced at the wall with pictures for a second, then back at me and continued. "We have titles like in companies. My title is the Alpha, well, soon to be Alpha. My dad is currently the Alpha and my mom is the Luna. Alpha blood is inherited. My parents are the leaders of the whole pack, like presidents or CEOs. They symbolize the mother and father to all members, and their word is respected and cherished by all. Then there is the Beta, who is second in command like a vice president, and the Alpha's right hand." As Julian wanted to continue, I cut him off. "What's a Luna?" I asked. He said she was like a mother figure, but I needed more information. He smiled for some reason. As I said, the Luna is the female leader of the pack. She's hand in hand with the Alpha, who is her mate. Before you ask about mates, I'll tell you. Am I that predictable? Stella, mates are like soulmates to humans but in the literal sense for us. We are bound by faith to be together. Mates have a more powerful bond than husband and wife. They can't be separated from each other even if they want to. Mates can't survive without each other's company for so long. They literally could die because it is physically painful to be apart, he explained with a big smile. His eyes were dancing with happiness and it stung. So, do you have a mate? I asked, a little disappointed and hoping for a no. It hurt to think that he had one, which was odd on my part because we just met. Yes, and she is the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. She is perfection in the shape of an angel. He described her with a bigger smile and I sighed. She's a lucky girl to have such a great man. Do I know her? I found myself asking. My stomach hurts. Yes, and better than you know. She was abused but is now protected by all, and will be forever loved by me. If you haven't connected the dots yet, it's you, Stella. You are my mate. I've been searching for you for years and I finally found you, he confessed, and I was shocked. Was I happy? Scared? Confused? What was I feeling? My eyes widened at his statement. I thought that he was bluffing, but then again he looked genuine. I felt my heart melt, and the smiles crept their way to my face. I was smiling from ear to ear. My one and only love, he breathed near my ear, and I sighed with delight. I can't believe it. I'm his mate. Is this a dream? Chapter 21, Third Person POV. My one and only love, Julian said as she sighed with delight. She felt alive with him, and he felt like he could conquer the world for her. That was the power of mates. So your family members are werewolves, does that mean Sky is one as well? She did not know how to feel about this, but she could not complain since she also kept secrets to herself for years. He glanced again at the family photo that was on the wall and smiled. It had Sky and Cody in it. Yes, she is, and Cody is her mate like you are mine and I am yours, he replied softly, making her heart soar with contentment. She shuddered at the sensational, lovely feeling she had, and she did not try to reason like she did since she got here. As Stella knew about the mate bond, Julian finally allowed himself to touch her warm, soft cheek. He was not afraid anymore of rejection because if she wanted to reject him, she could have done that the moment he shifted. Stella looked at her fated mate affectionately, enjoying the moment to the fullest, or savoring it since she had never experienced something like that before. Everything was new. It was safe to say that what they were both experiencing was love that was growing with each passing second. They knew each other for such a short period, but it was like love at first sight. However, the effect was stronger for them since he was an alpha. Love has no time. Love is distinctively charming. Julian cupped her cheeks and slowly kissed her forehead, then trailed his lips to her small nose until he reached her pale pink full lips that he craved since the moment he laid eyes on her. It was taking everything in his body not to claim her as his, but he kept his wild thoughts at bay for now. She wrapped her hands around his neck, letting him deepen the kiss. The first time he kissed her was great, but this time was phenomenal. Out of this world. As she became more confident with their closeness, her hands traveled slowly from his neck down to his lower back. He quivered at her touch and it excited her. He felt at home with her in his arms, and all of her senses became alive with him. His breathing deepened in time with hers. They completed each other. She felt dizzy, yet did not want to stop him from touching her. His lips began to move against her skin along her jawline, words sung softly by her ear. I want you. Stella smiled, finally letting her emotions speak on her behalf. Give me your full affection because I've been craving your presence ever since I saw you, which was not long ago. I don't care about the werewolf thing and I don't care that you're not human. All I care about is you. You saved me, Julian. You pulled me out of my dull life filled with abuse and darkness. You returned the light to my life. I saw glimmers of hope radiating from your massive body when you shielded me from my brother, she explained in a sweet voice that made Julian's eyes turn to a darker shade of brown, almost black with lust. He was trying his best to control his wolf and not scare her with his possessiveness. The room was filled with a sensual intensity, both wholly intoxicated by the other. She knew that this was her new beginning. She put all of her trust and faith in and with him. It was the mate bond talking, but her heart was feeling. She saw the good in him. The sound of owls called, interrupting their heated moment. They were standing on the branches of the trees outside, which began to fade into the darkness. She felt him begin to pull away, but she held his hand, not fully prepared to let him go. Not now, at least. I found myself drowned in your kindness. I am falling hard for you, Julian, she stated confidently. But then again, she felt embarrassed that she was actually sharing her deepest feelings and emotions with Julian. He smiled. I also found myself drowned in your sweet, soothing and calming voice. To your calmness. I love the look in your eyes when you see something you like. I love your eyes. I love the black hair that falls on your back. It might be soon for humans to say this, but I am not a human, so I love you, Stella. I want you to stay in my arms and grow old together, he confessed, and she could not do anything out of embarrassment but peck his dimple. They felt complete. So about that kiss when the garden was on fire? Stella began, and Julian looked like she took him off guard with this question. He thought she had forgotten about it. Oh, that kiss, well. I just wanted to do it. You look so cute while talking fast, not that you are not cute all the time, but I just wanted to, okay. He answered, feeling frustrated and nervous. She giggled at his foolishness. He never felt nervous before, well, not until he met her. She made him feel things like never before, and he would be damned if he hated it. She was a rose that did not wither in his eyes. As Julian was drowned in his own thoughts, Stella fell asleep in his arm, feeling warm and safe. He tucked his nose in her neck, inhaling her delicious scent that made his wolf lose his scenes. He was demanding Julian to mark her right there on the spot. Yet Julian was so thoughtful and selfless. He did not want to take advantage of her while she was asleep. He wants to ask for her permission first. Peter growled at him, but then he felt defeated because Julian had a point there, and he loved Stella too much to make her sad or even angry. They only wanted her to always smile. They wanted her to feel perfect in every sense of the word. She deserved all the best that they could offer for her innocent soul. The soul that did not ask for too much. She was abused indeed. But now she's protected by her powerful and loyal mate. And she is and will always be loved by him and his wolf. Till death do them apart. Julian thought that his life was worry-free for just mere seconds. Then he remembered what made him wince in disgust. He had a cousin to take care of and a brother to be careful of. Stella's brother did not even deserve this word. Julian knew that her brother would not just leave her alone. He was sure about that because he made his friend Robin talk. He told Julian that her brother was planning revenge. Julian was hoping that they catch them as soon as possible. For Stella's safety. Both of them were evil and were after his vulnerable and beautiful mate. He would rather die than see his mate sad and scared again. Chapter 22 Stella. It had been weeks since I knew about the secret. Julian was a werewolf. I was his mate in future Luna. Who could have known that my life would turn upside down by me finding the pack house? It was like what Julian's mom said, we do live in a small world, but Julian has been acting weird lately. Every time I sit or even stand by his side, he gulps and averts any eye contact with me. Did I do something wrong? I decided to ask him when he finished his shower. He said that cold morning showers relax him, and I agree with him. It made me feel refreshed whenever I took one. But I felt that he had a different reason for the cold water. I wonder what. After Julian insisted that I should wait for him in his room, I laid my back on his king-sized, comfy bed listening to some music from my new phone. I was very grateful for everything. As I was daydreaming and humming with the beautiful song, I heard the bathroom door open. I looked up and saw a very handsome half-naked Julian, with only a towel around his waist and water droplets on his muscular chest. His hair was wet and he looked wow. I did not know if saying beautiful to a man was appropriate, but he looked absolutely beautiful. Maybe it was the mate bond making me feel like that, but I really did not care. I loved it. As I was admiring him, he cleared his throat while looking like a tomato. Unexpectedly, his cheeks were a deep shade of red, and I wanted to grin but refrained from doing so. Sorry, I forgot my pants, he said as he grabbed his pants and dashed back to the bathroom. He closed it with so much force. Hey, he is mad at me for sure. I sat properly on his bed and crossed one leg over the other, and waited for more than 5 minutes. I was thinking of how I should start my speech and how I can open the subject. He opened the door looking like the normal and usual Julian that I knew. Hey, he said as he sat next to me. His hair was still wet from the shower. It covered his whole forehead and a bit of his eyebrows. He looked sexy. Hey. I looked at his honey eyes. They were so bright, brighter than usual. I guess that's a werewolf thing. Right. So, I trailed off to open the subject. So, he asked while looking straight at me. I've been meaning to ask, but are you mad at me? I asked, then waited for his answer. His eyes widened and started shaking his head left and right. No, absolutely not. Why would I be mad at you? What did I do to make you feel this way? He arched his eyebrows and put his right hand on my left one. Well, you've been acting weird all week long. Whenever I'm with you, you gulp and avert eye contact with me. A couple of minutes before, you slammed the door with a lot of force. Did I do something to upset you? I asked again, and this time I put my right hand on his cheek. I did not want to be the source of his sadness or anger. He closed his eyes and sighed. No, Stella, I'd never be mad at you. You did nothing wrong. It's just... He trailed off but stopped and gazed at the floor. He was thinking really hard about what to say next. I rubbed his cheek gently. It's just what? Tell me, Julian, I urged, encouraging him to speak. Well, it's about the mark and I have to do it soon, but I can't, he explained, but not clearly. Mark? What's a mark? Why can't you do it? I asked. His world was still unknown to me. I needed to ask more to learn about his lifestyle. He looked pained but happy at the same time, if that was even possible. A mark is a bite that a werewolf does to let other male werewolves know that his mate is only his, and he was hers. In other words, he bites her to mark her. I have to mark you, Stella, he whispered the last part, but I heard him loud and clear. My eyes widened in fear. Mark me as in bite me. Bite me where? What if it hurts? He let go of my hand and placed it in the crook of my neck. He moved his finger along my neckline until he stopped at some point, and I shivered at his action. Here, he answered seriously. And if I don't do it, you'll be in heat soon, he added. Heat? It's like periods, kind of. You'll feel like your body is burning, especially since you are human. It hurts. I've seen many female werewolves go through it and it was not easy at all. So will you let me mark you when you are ready? He asked, and I thought about it. From what he was saying, heat hurts more than periods. And my period hurts. The mark, will it hurt? He nodded, and I loved his honesty. Not as much as the heat. If you go through heat, you'll feel like you've gone through hell, while the bite will hurt you at the first 10 seconds or so. Then you'll feel satisfied, he reasoned, and I put my hand on my neck as a reflex. Can you give me time to think about it? Maybe I can talk with your mom or Sky, you know? I need a girl to talk to about this, I said, feeling the embarrassment radiating from my now red cheeks. Sure, I can take you now if you want. He stood and grabbed his keys. Let's go. With that, we headed to Nancy's home as he decided it was best since she experienced heat and the mark. His dad was in another pack, dealing with some business when she went into heat, and he had not marked her yet. She would know what was best for me. Chapter 23, Stella. It had been 2 hours since Julian dropped me off at his parents' house, and his father was not home. I was hanging out with Nancy in her yoga room. She asked me if I did yoga before, but of course I did not have the time to exercise. I only ran. When she knew that I used to dance ballet when I was younger, she was excited. I thought she would be sad that I was not interested in being a doctor or a scientist. I always had this perspective that most parents want their kids to be successful and earn a lot of money. Well, that was what I saw in my school, at least. I used to see parents reprehend their kids for getting bad grades or for misbehaving. One of them once yelled at his son, and I quote, "This awful grade ruined your chance of becoming a doctor like us." The dad said that with such a harsh tone in front of the whole class. It made me flinch because I remembered Raymond and his abuse. I felt bad for my classmate since he wanted to become a famous actor. He was great at acting, but his parents did not give him a chance. Julian was lucky to have Nancy as a mom. Maybe she was different because she was a werewolf. I miss Mom, I miss Dad. I surely don't miss Raymond and never will. So Stella, what do you want to ask me? I know I can't replace your mother's position, but at least consider me as a close friend or even a sister. You can tell me anything you want, Nancy said in her motherly tone. Then grabbed both of my hands and squeezed them gently. I could see her as a mother figure because I was her son's mate. Mates get married at some point in life as it was destined. That was what Sky told me the other night. So Nancy would be my mother-in-law someday. I nodded. I know you'll listen, but please don't laugh, I requested with pleading eyes. Her eyes widened and she shook her head. I would never do such a thing. Come on, sweetheart, you can tell me what's on your mind. She smiled. I sat on the long mattress and made myself more comfortable. Well, Julian explained the mark thing earlier today. He said that he has to do it so I won't be in heat. He also said heat is so hard and painful. He told me to tell him whenever I'm ready, I said, then took deep breaths. I got scared, Does the bite hurts? Honey, I won't lie to you. The bite will hurt you, but for a few seconds, then you'll feel happy and a part of Julian. You'll get closer to each other, your bond will grow stronger. He'll be more attached to you than now. He'll be a pain in the butt sometimes, believe me when I say you both will be happier. I know, she explained with a humorous tone at the end, making me giggle. So no regrets. She shook her head. No, dear. You'll only earn his full and annoying attention. As his father did to me, he's still doing it, she replied, and I laughed. That does not sound so bad. I have been alone most of my life. Thank you, Nancy. Talking with you does help. She beamed at me. That's wonderful, let's take you to him now. She stood up and helped me stand. We exited the room and headed to the living room to get her car keys. He's home now, right? She asked as we sat in the car. Yes, that's what he said. Thank you so much, I really needed some encouragement. See you later. I bid her goodbye and headed to the main door. Julian registered my fingerprints as a lock for the door, as his house was my house. I had to act normal and feel free to use whatever I wanted. Oh, agreed, but I still could not act like I owned the house because I did not. As I was opening the door, I called for Julian but got no response. Julian, are you there? I asked again but higher. While I was closing the door, it got stopped halfway by an unknown man. I screamed. Your Julian is not here, the man said and pinned me to the wall before I got the chance to even glance at his face. I felt scared and panicked. I blinked rapidly. Who are you? I tried to ask since his grip was tightening around my neck. He smirked with a huff. I examined his face up close to make sure he was not Raymond. He was not. He was taller, with thicker brown hair and a short beard. His eyes were pitch black, and they had evilness and cruelness in them. I'm Joey, he introduced himself, and I felt like time had stopped. Joey, Julian's cousin and enemy. Chapter 24. Julian. I filled Mom in on Stella's situation before I headed to the PAX prison because that conversation was so awkward, and I preferred to deal with fucking Robin than have the full talk about heat about the mark. Robin better starts talking. Yeah, and if he doesn't, just let me do the talking. I can be very persuasive, Peter said, and I nodded, not feeling like arguing with him. He could be a handful if he did not get his way. I must find Raymond and Joey as soon as possible because they would cause problems if I did not deal with them soon. I just felt it. I opened the old cellar and entered to see more than 30 evil rogues, but I kept on searching for Robin. After a few minutes of receiving threatening howls and curses from all over the prison, I spotted him sitting on a chair while staring at the sky through the chained window. I almost did not recognize him from his disfigured face. He received the beating of a lifetime from my warriors. When my men learned that Robin tried to hurt their Luna, they were furious and agitated. I did not let them kill him. I could not let them do that since I wanted to know Raymond's whereabouts and his plan. I will protect Stella with all my might, even if I have to sacrifice my life for her. So you finally decided to show up. Robin's hoarse voice brought me back to reality. Disgusting. Peter always had something to say. I did not answer him. I just closed the cellar's door and brought a chair, then placed it in front of him. Are you enjoying your stay? He huffed. Let me out of here, he demanded. No can do. I crossed my arms and leaned back in the chair. I waited a few seconds before I spoke just to get on his nerves. On second thought, you can get out of here, but on one condition. He shifted in his place, already anticipating his freedom, and looked at me. What's the condition? He asked with narrowed eyes. He was finding it difficult to believe me, but I dropped the doubt in his mind. Tell me where Raymond is and you may leave, I cleared. Are you out of your mind? Peter yelled in my head and I nodded. Yes and no, I replied, then blocked him out. I needed to focus. Robin's eyes widened for a second, and then he calmed down and acted as if he did not care about his freedom. But I don't know where he is. I rolled my eyes at his lie. Come on, Robin, we both know that you're lying, you can do better than that. Now spill it before I use my fists to make you speak, and I won't be as lenient as my men, I threatened, and the worry was evident on his face. Good. You wouldn't. He dared me and I snickered. Oh, but I will. I am not an angel. Now tell me, where is Raymond? I demanded in a more intimidating tone because I was done with his bullshit. I used my alpha voice and it sounded terrifying even to humans. He sighed, defeated. He's living in a cottage near the river to the south, he answered, and I raised my eyebrows. There was only one river in that area, and for some reason it was hard for me to believe him, but I would play along for a bit. Cody, take Alexander and another pack warrior and go to the south area, near the river. I want you to search for the bastard Raymond. You remember him, right? I mind-linked my beta and waited for his reply. Yes, Alpha. Right away, he replied not a second later, and I turned my attention back to Robin. Okay then, I'll set you free like I promised. Not now, tomorrow. If you are lying, you better pray, I announced, then got out of the cellar before he could object to anything. I know he's lying, but there is no harm in checking. I got into my Jeep and headed to the woods. Peter and I wanted to run to cool off, so I parked the vehicle in my usual spot and grabbed some clothes with me. I shifted and let Peter take control. Finally, I can run, Peter said. I miss Stella, he added, and I sighed. Me too, buddy, me too. We will see her soon, I replied. Then he dashed through the woods. After 2 hours of running, Peter stopped to rest. I'm tired. Peter lay on his stomach and closed his eyes. You think? You've been running for 2 hours straight at full speed, I said, and he laughed. He decided to take a nap on the cool ground and I let him. He deserved a break. However, not a minute later Peter jumped, surprising me in the process. Something happened. What happened? I asked, feeling uneasy and anxious. Mate, Stella's in danger. Great danger, he said, then started running without stopping. Where? I got angry and worried for her. Home, he replied, and I made him stop. Shift back, I'll wear my clothes. If the door is locked, I'd have to put on my fingerprint, I explained, and Peter did as I said. I dashed towards my house at my alpha speed and smelled Stella's scent and someone else's. I sniffed the air as I approached the house. I smelled his disgusting smell. I smelled Joey. He is dead now. I opened the main door to see what made me livid and furious. Stella was pinned to the wall by Joey, and his hands were around her neck. He was choking her. You fucking bastard, let go of her, I shouted, then kicked him real hard, shoving him off her. What a nice way to greet your cousin, Julian, Joey said. And I saw Stella fall on the floor trying to catch her breath. She was coughing too much. I bent down and cupped her cheeks, ignoring the bitch of a cousin. Stella, look at me. Are you okay? I asked. She shook her head, unable to speak. A moment later she fainted. I was so concentrated on her that I did not pay attention to Joey. He looked at me with a sly smirk. Too bad we didn't get the time to speak normally, but there is always a second time. With that he dashed to the woods. I did not chase after him because Stella was more important. As he said, there is always a second time. And it won't be pretty for him. Chapter 25 Stella. When I finally saw Julian enter the house, I felt relieved, but not entirely because of the hands around my neck, choking me to death. As clutch as it could get, I saw my life flash before my eyes. The sad thing was that most of this life was me being beaten up by my own flesh and blood. The happy memories were in the very background, blurry and distant. Everything was blurry, like my vision. I barely saw Julian approach me with livid eyes. His face was literally red, and his veins were popping out. I almost did not recognize him. He was not his usual calm self. He was not the Julian that I had grown to love. He was different. You fucking bastard, let go of her, he shouted at Joey with a very high tone that made my ears ring, then kicked his cousin real hard. Luckily, Joey let go of me. Julian's blow caused Joey to back down to catch his breath. Joey looked at Julian with so much hatred and loath, making him look like Raymond. What a nice way to greet your cousin, Julian, Joey sarcastically. I felt like my legs go numb. Once I tried to catch my heavy breath, I coughed loudly, then looked at the floor trying to keep my eyes open. I was fighting with all my might, but it was useless. Julian bent down and cupped my cheeks with his big warm hands. Stella, look at me. Are you okay? He asked in a scared tone, but I shook my head, unable to speak. Seconds later, I felt darkness consuming my vision. I heard a lot of noise and felt like I was being placed on a soft bed. I tried to focus until I heard Julian's worried voice. I heard another male voice, and their chat started to clear out more. Please, Doc, help her. She won't wake up. I tried to call her but she didn't move at all, Julian explained, and I felt bad for not being able to open my eyes. I see, let me examine her and I'll talk with you in a bit. Leave please, the doctor replied, but then I heard a loud bang. Someone might have slammed something on a table. I will not leave her alone with you. She's my mate and you can't touch her as you please. I'm the only one who can do that, not you, not anyone else. You'll check her right in front of me. Here and now, Julian yelled at the doctor. I wanted to scold him. I could sense his wrath. I tried to open my eyes but I could not. It felt like I was buried under a big pile of rocks. I wanted to calm him down, to hold his hands, to hug him and kiss his lips. I wanted to wake up but I simply could not. A moment later I heard a female voice, so I listened closely. Julian, please, let the doctor do his job, listen to me, the woman pleaded. Then another voice joined the conversation. Julian, listen to your mother and the doctor, his dad ordered. No, I'll stay here with her. Julian stubbornly refused to leave, and I felt happy. I did not know what I did to deserve such an amazing man, who was abnormal. A werewolf. A kind, protective, and possessive werewolf. I never thought I was worthy enough to have these people in my life. Okay, I'll inject her with medicine to help her wake up. Will you let me do that? Please, Alpha. It will help her for sure, the doctor asked, and Julian sighed. Then I felt someone place their hands on my arm. Seconds later I felt the needle in my arm. It stung a little but I could not wince or react. What was wrong with me? Stella, please wake up. I promise I'll find Joey and kill him, then I'll find Raymond, and I'll make him pay for what he had done to you all these years. I'm sorry you had to go through that again because of my cousin. Just wake up. I love you, Stella, Julian confessed, and I felt delighted to have him around. I tried to open my eyes again and again, and again until I started seeing the light. My vision started to brighten. Julian, look. Nancy pointed to Julian. Then he started shaking me lightly. Yes, love. Open your eyes, open them for me, he encouraged, and I doubled my efforts and opened my eyes, then I closed them to adjust my vision to the light. It was blinding. Thank you, Doc. I'm sorry for my outburst. It is my duty, Alpha. Even if you yell at me, I will never abandon a person in need. Now if you'll excuse me, I need to leave for now, the doctor replied as I heard the door close. I opened my eyes to see my restless wolf with a huge smile on his face. Hey, he greeted. I smiled and then looked around me. I was in a hospital bed, probably the PAX hospital. I saw Nancy and Julian's father standing behind their son with smiles on their faces. Hey, I greeted back. I tried to sit but it was difficult, so I just lay there with Julian next to me. How are you feeling? He asked. I'm better now. Thanks to the injection, I believe, I replied, and Julian arched his eyebrows. You heard everything. I chuckled then nodded. Yes, every single word. From the threats to the I love you. By the way, those last 3 words gave me the power to open my eyes. Thank you, I admitted, making him blush, and his parents laughed at him. Well, Stella, it's good to know that you're okay, so we will leave you two alone, his father said. Then they left the room. Julian. He looked into my gray eyes and smiled. Yes, love. I'm ready. He raised his eyebrows, confused. Ready for what? I put my hand on his cheek and rubbed it with my thumb. For you to mark me, I announced. I can't believe what I'm saying. I just asked him to bite me. I hope it will turn out good. Chapter 26. Stella. I never felt more confident. Call me crazy and or insane who likes to rush things, but I honestly did not care. In the few weeks that I have known him, he was so kind to me. Even though he was a strong alpha who could kill without thinking, he could be super sweet and caring. But what if this was all too good to be true? I was afraid that at some point, this amazing fantasy that I was living in would turn out to be just a mere dream to escape from my bitter and cruel reality. The reality did not care much about me because of my ruthless, emotionless brother. If this was all a dream, I'd like to be asleep for eternity without any kind of disturbance. I just asked Julian to bite me and I was scared shitless. Yet I hoped it would turn out to be a marvelous and splendid experience that I would never forget. They spoke highly of the marking process, so I hoped that it would not disappoint. Julian stared at me for a while to see if I was joking or making fun of him. He tried to read hints of humor in my face, yet found none. "Are you sure, Stella?" he asked calmly, but excitement was evident in his honey eyes. He was fighting with his wolf Peter for control. I chuckled. "Yes, Julian. I want you to mark me as your one and only girl. Mate, partner, whatever you like, just do it," I replied with a sincere smile that made him smile wider in return. He leaned in my touch and grabbed my hands with his, and he kissed my palms. His lips lingered on my hands, and it did not bother me at all. "Hey love, I think it's better if we wait until we get home. It will be more comfortable for you," he explained. I agreed and blushed at the love part. "It's hard to get used to it." "Then take me home already," I cleared with a grin. He suddenly put his hands under my legs and back and lifted me up. He carried me bridal style and got out of the room to see the doctor and his parents standing near the waiting room, talking with each other, most likely about me. When they saw us together, they smiled knowingly. I quickly hid my face in Julian's chest and clinched his shirt because it was too embarrassing to be seen in this position by his parents. He just kept on walking to the main entrance, ignoring my anxiety. "That was cringeworthy," I commented as he placed me on the seat. "Nah, it was cute," he said and kissed my cheek. He turned around the front of the Jeep and sat in the driver's seat. "I can't wait to get home," he added while looking straight at me. Oh boy. The ride home was too quiet, but it was not awkward. The silence was comforting. "Stella," Julian opened the main door for me and led the way like a gentleman. He was a gentleman. There's no doubt about it. "Thank you," I muttered, and I entered the house. I walked to my bedroom floor. Julian followed me and tried to enter, but I locked the door behind me real quick. He did not see that coming for sure. "Sorry, but I need to take a quick shower and change my clothes," I apologized loudly through the door. "Fine," he replied like a 5-year-old. "I'm waiting for you in the living room. Don't be late, please." I headed to my wardrobe and pulled out another set of clothes and put them on after I removed the old, dirty ones. I entered the shower and felt like the Flash, scrubbing my body clean. I was too fast. "I can't believe I'm going to get marked." "Breath, Stella, breath. Nothing bad will happen," I talked to myself to ease up a bit. Then opened the door after getting dressed and headed to the living room downstairs. As I stepped foot in the room, I was engulfed in a warm hug. I raised my head and saw Julian's smiling face. "What took you so long?" He buried his face in my neck. He sniffed it and sighed with delight. "I was gone for like 10 minutes, Julian, don't be so dramatic," I teased, and he huffed cutely. He lifted me up and headed towards the couch and sat me on his lap. My head was on his chest. "I can't imagine my life without you by my side. You complete me," he said, then tightened his grip around me. I relaxed more, knowing what was coming next after this. "Can I?" He trailed off and I hummed a yes, then closed my eyes, waiting for him to do his special thing. Julian flipped my hair and placed it on one side. He trailed his hands around my neck. After a moment of rubbing his finger on the nape of my neck, he started leaving a trail of wet kisses until he finally found my weak spot. I moaned softly when he got to it, and I almost choked from the embarrassment. I could feel him smirk. "So that's your spot. Don't talk against my neck." Tickled. "Are you ready?" "If you don't want to tell me, Stella, I don't want you to regret it," he said, and I felt bad that he was still in doubt about my determination. I turned my head and smiled widely at him. "Julian, I will never regret doing this with you. You are my mate. I have no one else but you in my life. Well, I have Sky, but that's beside the point. You are my first and last love. I want you to mark me so I can brag that you are mine as much as I am yours. You are perfect, so I'd never ever regret it," I answered honestly, then kissed his lips. He smiled through the kiss. I turned my head so I could give him more access to my neck and took a deep breath. I closed my eyes once again. After excruciating seconds, I felt his fangs penetrate my skin. I screamed. It hurt like a bitch. It felt painful, but after the initial shock went down, I felt like I was in heaven, soaring on the clouds with him. It felt absolutely marvelous. I literally felt his love in me. So that's what it feels like to be bitten by your mate. Magnificent. Chapter 27. Stella. It had been a few days since the Mark and Julian had become more possessive and overprotective. It was nice having someone to care about you all the time and love you as much as you love them, but It was not that fun when a werewolf alpha, who can kill anyone without blinking, gets overprotective. It is driving me nuts. Stella, where are you? Speaking of my beloved mate. He yelled while running around the house with only blue jeans and no t-shirt. I was not complaining about that. I did not mind seeing his perfect body at all. I was complaining about the overprotective side of him. I was in the bathroom washing my hands from the dinner that we just had. I swear I told him that, but he thought being away for 2 minutes was a serious problem. I'm in the bathroom, Julian, I'm coming, I replied as I dried my hands. I got out of the bathroom to come face to face with his muscular chest. I let out a small puff sound as we collided, and his arms instantly were around me. He lifted my chin and looked into my eyes. Are you hurt? I'm sorry, he asked, concerned. No, don't worry. I'm perfectly fine, I reassured, then walked to the living room. He was right behind me. So what do you want to do today? He asked, and I shrugged. I don't know, though I have a question, I replied after I sat on the couch. He sat next to me and wrapped his hands around me, hugging me from the waist down. I fixed my position to be more comfortable and looked at him. I know that you're soon to be alpha, I started, and he nodded. When is soon? Like, when are you going to become the alpha of the Greymod pack? He grinned and I arched my eyebrows. Valid question, because the ceremony will be held in about a week. Stella, I need to tell you something though, he said, suddenly looking uneasy. It made me nervous. Yeah. When I become the alpha, we have to complete the mating process. I stared at him. Excuse you. It is not what I think it is. Right. What's the mating process? I asked, not wanting to actually know. I was scared. He had a complex expression. Well, his cheeks turned red. Heck, even his ears were red. It's that bad. What? I asked, encouraging him to continue. It's something all mates do to be one. Then we will be like a married couple in the human perspective. Or your perspective, Stella, he explained. Like a married couple. Be one. Oh shit, it is what I thought it is. Oh, that was all that came from my mouth. My whole body felt like it was on fire. We have to make love, I stated, and he nodded. If you don't want to do it, I completely understand, he commented. Here we go again. No, it's not like that. It's just, I began, and he nudged my shoulder to continue. It would be my first time, and I'm afraid of the fact that I might disappoint you, Julian. I lowered my head and stared at the now very interesting carpet. He literally jumped from the couch and kneeled down in front of me. That's your problem. That you might disappoint me. Stop joking around, Stella. You'd never disappoint me. On the contrary, I'm the one who's afraid of your rejection. After all, it would be my first time too, he admitted, and my eyes widened with surprise. Really? I would never reject you. I love you so much. You were the first one to give me shelter from my brother. You always help me when I need help. You're kind, too kind at times and too overprotective at other times, I confidently said. I love you, Stella. So fucking much. He embraced me as his life depended on it, and I was contented. I hope that we can stay like this for a while. And I spoke too soon because my phone rang. We parted from each other and I grabbed my phone. Hey Sky, I greeted with a smile. Julian lifted me up and placed me on his lap. Then he nuzzled his nose into my neck, where he marked me. It felt warm but thick. Like intimately thick. Hey Stella, are you ready for tomorrow? She asked in a happy and joyful tone. I arched my eyebrows at her sudden question. Tomorrow? I asked. Do we have something tomorrow? You can't be serious. Don't tell me you forgot, she hopefully said. I sighed. What do we have tomorrow, Sky? A lot happened in the past couple of months. Wait. I remembered. Oh shit. How did I forget? I face-palmed myself, then looked at Julian with horror. I was afraid of Sky's reaction. What's wrong, love? Julian asked. I shook my head and then got back to Sky. Please don't be mad. I forgot, okay? I tried to reason, but she screamed, and Cody's voice was heard on the other end. Sky, are you okay? He asked and she said no. Of course she's not okay. How can I forget such a thing? I'm an idiot. The graduation is tomorrow and you forgot. She screamed at me, and I had to remove the phone from my ear due to her loud voice. Julian growled at the phone in anger, but I rubbed his cheek, and he calmed down instantly. Yes, Sky. I forgot that we have our graduation tomorrow. Sue me. I replied, trying to sound like the poor victim. It was not my fault. It was the werewolf world's fault. I heard her loud and long sigh, then she asked what made me more afraid of her reaction. Do you have anything to wear other than the clothes that we bought for you? A long pause. Stella. No, I replied, and I swear I heard Cody's yelling for help. Was she killing him? Prepare yourself. We're going to the mall. I'll come and get you, and if Julian doesn't allow it, he will come. You hear me, Jojo? Sky raised her voice at the last statement, and I chuckled at his nickname. It's cute. He huffed. I'll come. Get Cody too, he said through the phone and ended the conversation. Let's get ready. It's going to be a long day. Chapter 28 Julian. After we got to the mall and bought Stella a new dress for her graduation ceremony, we headed to a small park that had no one in it but us. It was too quiet yet nice and calming. Sky was so annoying with her requests. She loved to shop to the point of insanity. We stayed at the mall for the whole freaking day. Literally. It was 10 in the evening when we got out of the mall. I could not understand her sometimes. I don't understand her all the time. I don't know how Cody can handle her, Peter commented as usual, and I had to agree with him on this one. He was not telling lies. So, when are you planning to complete the mating process? He asked excitedly. He was a perverted wolf. I don't know. Whenever she's ready. I don't want Stella to run away from us just because we didn't let her think about it carefully. It's a serious matter, you know? I replied, then waited for his reply. He rolled his eyes, then sighed. I guess you're right. I hate it when you're right, so I will just go and leave you be for some time. Cody and I sat on the benches across from the swings. Sky grabbed Stella's hand and dragged her to the swing that was placed in front of me. She locked eyes with me and started to swing like a free, beautiful angel. My angel. She looked absolutely stunning, and the dress that she got for tomorrow fit her perfectly. I will be her date tomorrow because she was too beautiful to be out there alone. There will be horny boys and men. Plus Joey or Raymond might show up. The idea of them made me growl a bit, but then I looked at my mate and calmed down. I smiled widely at her and admired her staggering smile. What do you want to do, guys? I asked and they all shrugged. Sky tilted her head back in the air and stared at the stars. I looked at the moon and thanked God because today was a full moon night, and most werewolves shift uncontrollably. We, on the other hand, do not. Our pack was taught to control our shifting at times like this. We went through very rough training to master our control. Our pack was one of the oldest packs of all time, so our bodies knew what to do after a while or struggling when it was a full moon night. Werewolves usually start shifting when they turn 15 and have a 3-year window. If after they turn 18 they do not shift, then they never will. Therefore, the training must be harsh to withstand life. Other packs would think that we had taken a drug or something not to shift. But in reality, Peter was already in deep slumber for the next 12 hours, and so was Sky's and Cody's wolves. It was risky but better than having uncontrollable wolves on the loose. Can I say a short poem and you tell me if it's good or not? Stella asked all of a sudden, and we nodded with happy smiles. She fixed her position and cleared her throat. We are all made of stars, but wait, that's not how it starts. Not knowing where to go or what time, how do I know? Should I ask, should I cry? I still don't know. I fall but I rise. I make mistakes, but in the end we are all gonna change. So you can wait until the moon is awake. Stare at the sky and pray that you will not break. Stay strong, spread your wings, but if you fall that will be the end. Wait, who said that this would be the end? That's not it, 'cause you're human after all. You're not perfect. You fall, you rise, but that proves you are alive. We are all made of stars. She delivered this relatable poem softly, and I was proud. Cody, Sky, and I stood up and clapped for her. That was beautiful, I commented, and she smiled brightly. Yes, absolutely. It was great, Cody said. Where and when did you create it? Sky asked with a wide smile. Stella stood up but did not move. Thank you, guys. I got inspired when I looked at the stars. Stella answered. They made me. She did not continue her sentence as she suddenly ran to us with a frightened expression. Stella. We called for her. But the next thing that happened made us gasp and open our eyes in disbelief. We heard bone cracking sounds and wincing coming from her small mouth. We looked carefully at her as she shifted from her small petite human body to a gray wolf. Stella jumped over our heads before we could register what had just happened, and landed on a brown wolf that was probably a rogue. The astonishment made us freeze in our spot. We could not move, and our wolves were in slumber. I saw my human mate in her wolf form fighting a rogue. She fought him fiercely until she broke his leg. She won, then the rogue ran back to the woods whining and bleeding. What just happened? Sky and Cody asked at the same time. I approached her and then kneeled down in front of her shivering body. She was in shock as well. I pulled my hand and placed it on her head. I rubbed her soft fur gently and carefully. I did not want to scare her. Stella. I trailed off and she nodded her head. Then she started sniffing my clothes and buried her head into my chest. That's really her. What in the world just happened? As I was thinking of the possibilities, Peter howled and made me shift. I guess he smelled her wolf. Chapter 29 Stella. When I saw a figure lurking in the shadows, I felt scared. I wanted to warn Julian, Cody, and Sky. But a sudden voice jumped into my head. Hurry, Stella. Shift or they get hurt and die. I heard a woman's voice in my head and I freaked out. I felt terrified by that voice. How did it get to my head? The voice repeated the word shift in a louder tone that was filled with vigor and power. I did not think much as it was so demanding and absolute. I felt like a soldier receiving orders to kill the enemy. They had no choice but to obey and save others' lives. I was the soldier. I ran to fight the wolf that was standing behind my people, and jumped over their heads and heard bone cracking in my body. I assumed it was painful, but the adrenaline rush blinded me and blocked all the pain from my mind. It was like a dream. I gazed at my hands and saw fur. My mouth was now a long snout. I did not have time to react as my body moved on its own, and I landed on the brown wolf. What was happening to me? I made you shift. You became a wolf, Stella. A strong wolf that is going to beat this rogue's butt. Now fight and think later. The woman's voice answered my question, and I had no other choice. I fought. I fought until he dropped to the ground with a broken leg and bloody head. Not a second later, the rogue ran to the woods, leaving me to my thoughts. I looked back to where we were and saw them frozen in place. What just happened? Sky and Cody asked simultaneously. Julian approached me and then kneeled down in front of my shivering body. I was not feeling cold. It just felt weird and abnormal. I'm not human. No, you've been a werewolf since the day you were born. It will take time to explain, but in the meantime, my name is Diana. It's so good to be back, she introduced delightfully. I did not know what to say. This is too much for me to comprehend. I mean, I can understand and accept Julian's nature, but me being one. It was so wrong, weird, funny, I don't know. I can't describe it. Julian pulled his hand and placed it on my big head, then rubbed my soft gray fur. It felt good to be touched by him, especially when I was lost and terrified. Stella. He trailed off and I nodded my head in response. Out of nowhere, I had the urge to be near him, so I started sniffing his clothes and buried my head into his warm, wide chest that accepted us. Diana buzzed with satisfaction at the contact. After a moment of silence, Julian shifted. Looks like Peter took over control. Again. Hey, Peter. I'm Diana. My wolf introduced herself to him, and I just stayed silent. Peter came closer and sniffed our neck. Diana. What a beautiful name for a beautiful Luna. You and Stella are perfect for us. His tone was softer than usual. He was whipped. We have a question. He trailed off. How is that possible? We did not smell your scent before, so we always thought Stella was human. It's like you weren't there but suddenly appeared. How? Yeah, Stella, did you know? Julian also asked through what I assumed was the mind link. No, I was too surprised, if I must say. She told me I was born as a werewolf, I stated. Then Peter and Julian gasped. Before they could say anything else, Cody and Sky stepped forward. Guys, not to interrupt or anything, but we would like to share your conversation. We have the right to know. She's our soon-to-be Luna, and she's Sky's best friend, Cody reasoned. I just nodded and tried to shift back. Then the horror ran through my body. I didn't know how to shift back. Julian, how can I shift again? I asked, anxious. Both Julian and Peter laughed at me. Hell, even Diana laughed. What's so funny? It's just your tone is so cute, Julian replied, and I felt my cheeks heat up. All you have to do is focus on your human body. Picture it in your head, he answered. It's not that hard. You can do it, Diana encouraged me, and I smiled, trying not to panic. I closed my eyes and pictured myself, my human self, wearing a sundress. I struggled at first because of my running thoughts, but after a moment, I focused and felt my bones cracking up like the first shift. I opened my eyes to see human hands again. That wasn't hard, I commented with a grin. I did not realize that I was naked until Julian's growl filled the air. He shifted back quickly to his human form, naked, and stepped in front of Cody's body. He blocked his view of me. He tried not to look as well. Sky, there are some spare clothes for me in the trunk. Bring them, he demanded with a voice full of authority. Sky bowed her head. Yes, Alpha, she replied, then dashed to the jeep. Stella, we will get out of here and head home so you can tell us everything Diana says, Julian said, and I nodded. I felt like I was a robot functioning on default. I now understand how you feel when you're in your wolf form. Felt amazingly good. My senses got extremely better. I could mind link you as well. I was excited once reality became clearer. I know how that feels, Cody commented. Sky came with a large hoodie, a shirt and shorts which belonged to Julian. I could actually smell his scent. It smelt like pine trees. Wear it, Stella, Julian ordered. I felt his possessiveness and did not want to mess with him, so I grabbed the hoodie and put it on my naked body. It was too big, it reached just above my knees. So warm. Julian put on the shorts and a shirt, and then we headed home. I really want to know what happened to me. Was I really born a werewolf? Stella's story is still ongoing. Subscribe to us and look forward to her future together.